Hello and welcome everyone. It's that time of the week again. It's time for OzByDrone. I'm Greg. Welcome everyone. It's been a good week. What have you been up to this week? Anything fun for you, John? I'm not hearing your microphone. Why is that? I think I know what it is. I tell you what, I'm going to go back to the opening slide. There was something I forgot to do at the beginning of the show, and that's totally my fault. So we'll put the banner back up and we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. My fault. Okay, I think I've got that sorted out. Can you talk again, John, for me?
Hello, 1, 2, 3. Good day, everybody.
Ooh.
Welcome to OzByDrone. Here we are.
I'm hearing you, but very quiet.
Okay. Don't know what that is. When we go live, I seem to lose my audio.
Give me 1 second more.
Okay.
Stand by one.
Okay.
It's just not fair. It quiets you down for Greg, but it doesn't quiet you down for me.
Oh, is that right? Sorry about that, Lloyd.
Yeah, I can still hear you full.
You're a funny guy. The last one.
I know, yeah.
Great flying.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that.
It was. It was nice taking a break too.
Sitting
For
in the
me,
background.
anyways.
Okay, here we go. Now, I'm going to talk again. I'll get you to talk one more time, John.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to OzByDrone.
Yeah, bring that fader up just a little bit there to my producer in the background. And keep going. There we go. We'll see how that goes.
There we go.
Let's get back to the studio. Sorry about that false start, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
There we go. We can hear him now.
Drone. Yeah, great to have you with us. Fixing up our little sound issues to get going. We've got a great show for you this week. A fantastic new machine to show you with a guest and lots of other great news. So I was going to tell you today, I managed to integrate the new Here Pro GPS. Now, it's only in alpha mode at the moment. It's a really good unit, RTK unit, pretty high-end stuff and a little bit expensive. So the credit card is actually warmer than my receiver at the moment. But it's a great unit, and again, the Here Autopilot, the Cube Autopilot, and all its trimmings and add-ons are going really well, gangbusters at the moment. So great things happening with them.
Okay, sounds interesting. Well, I'm sure we're going to see some vision over the coming weeks of a lot of your new toys.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's get into the story. And as always, OzByDrone News, as I press my button for the graphic now not being ready, I'll quickly do it. There we go. OzByDrone News is brought to you by AirData UAV. Is your drone healthy or is it about to surprise you on your next flight? Don't wait to find out. Discover information under the hood and review the early signs of problems before you take off again. Use the discount code OzByDrone20 to get a 20% discount. There is a link in the description and there are free versions of their service also available. So do go and check it out.
Yep.
Okay, number one today, drone delivery. So this is something that, we've been talking about on and off for a long time, and Wing is celebrating what they claim as 100,000 deliveries supporting communities and local businesses. Wing serves the town of Logan and 19 suburbs with a combined population of more than 110,000 people. Residents ordered almost 4,500 deliveries in the first week of August, meaning that a Logan resident, on average, according to these stats, is receiving a drone delivery nearly once every 30 seconds during service hours, according to Wing. Now, this has been a very, very controversial video. I don't know if you've heard about the YouTube channel XJet, but certainly he's been talking about this one a lot. Some of the claims that he's been making are that, Google don't really want to be in the game of drone deliveries, but their underlying, if you call it sinister motivation, is that they want to run UTMs, and they needed some way of getting into government's ears. And if there was no one actually wanting to do drone delivery, they couldn't get into government ears and say, hey, here's a UTM solution. So what do you think? Do you think there's really a market for drone delivery?
Oh, look, I really think there is. There's a last mile delivery. It's always from the beginning, it was talked about you're going to get your pizza this way and your coffee. And, we all sort of say that's kind of nice. It's a novel thing. I think prescription medications, things that might be needed very, very quickly, sounds like a really useful way of using them. Look, it's still in its infancy in so many ways. It really is, this whole market. So interesting, your point about Google there and them, being the giant that they are. I fancy myself that UTMs will be heavily, partnered with a telco of some kind. The big thing with UTM is the control link. And the way we run our networks and the UTM is the actual information is shared across the internet and so forth. So Telstra, would be the type of perhaps a partner in this world that could offer so much to a UTM because they've got the infrastructure, they've got the technology, and they've got to back it up. But at the end of the day, aside from the aircraft itself, which is still, they've got a long way to go, the communications inside a UTM is what we're talking about. How does everyone know where the drone is in the space? Where's it going? And the reliability of that link. And
So,
maintaining that link to the aircraft.
so let's say that's where they want to be. Let's assume that is the case. Back to the commercials of drone delivery. Google may claim 100,000 deliveries, but the question that Bruce asked in some of his videos is, how much did Google get paid for them? And the answer is zero. They didn't get a cent for any of those drone deliveries. So is it commercially viable? I think only time will tell with that. But at first glance, I mean, you're buying a pizza, you're not going to pay a significantly large delivery fee above and beyond what you'd pay for an Uber delivery. It's not that much money going that way.
Yeah, these companies tend to have a lot of place a lot of importance on being the first adopter. You look at the way eBay rooted itself in the market and became this sort of thing. So, there's a pressure for them to say, when people think of drone deliveries, they're going to they think, oh, Google does that. They want this global domination idea. Amazon would love it. They'd love to have that, because it's a nice icing for their company. It sells well. We in the drone world, there's none of this really going on. I mean, if you have a look at the flight paths and they're flying where they've got to go and what the structure is, it's such an early stage, infancy, and it's very immature. The whole thing is very mature. So it really is. It comes down to the hype basket again. Great that if a company like Google, they gave all the deliveries for nothing. They would benefit enormously from being,
Of course
the
they
first
would.
adopter of one. So, there's a lot of stuff here. If you dig a little bit deeper, and I was in Canberra down when they first started them there, and I got the app, and I drove to a suburb. I knew an address where they promised a delivery. And I thought, right, here it is. I went onto the app. I ordered what I wanted to have. Sorry, not available. And then I drove somewhere, and so it was either the weather wasn't suitable. I mean, think of all the things that we fly. The day that it starts sprinkling with rain, guess what? No one's getting coffee.
Yeah.
No one's getting any. That whole thing falls down in a little bit of weather.
Let's
What are the cash? Everything. So
let's quickly go to Bill. We've got our guest here, and he put his hand up in the background, from what I gathered, and wanted to talk on this. Before we get into the interview, let's welcome you, Bill, and tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, thank you. And I think drone package delivery is a very interesting market opportunity. I think on the positive side, it will be the largest total addressable market size for drones, period. However, there's a catch. The catch is from a regulatory approval process, it basically needs three massive regulatory changes before drone package delivery can become ubiquitous. So the first is operations beyond line of sight need to become routine and everywhere. That's for the vast majority of countries. That's a big regulatory lift to work out the way to operate drones at distances. The second big challenge is if you're delivering packages to people, which means you're flying over people. And in the most countries, you're not allowed to operate drones over people not directly involved with the operation of the drone. So that's a second regulatory challenge that has to be addressed and is also a significant regulatory lift. The third piece is people are in urban areas. Urban areas are crowded airspace. And crowded airspace is because there's normally a busy manned aircraft airport in that area with airliners taking off and landing. So to summarize, it's a big market opportunity, but there's three significant regulatory pieces that have to fall into place before drone package delivery is actually a scalable business model. And just looking at some prior precedents, at least here in the United States with the FAA, on average, just looking at rulemaking changes, it's 7 years for each rulemaking change on average. And that's just empirical, historical based data. So I don't expect anybody will be making any significant revenue in the foreseeable future in drone package delivery. But when that regulatory framework falls into place, it'll be a big market opportunity.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'd like to hear your feedback after I play the next story, which is kind of related as well. And let me give you the quick read about this before I go into the story. When you think about drone delivery, dropping goods is probably not what most people have in mind. One company disagrees and has developed a tethered free-fall rapid delivery system able to quickly and safely deliver payloads from altitudes of up to 150 feet. Let's have a look at this. Now, I'm just going to pause it there for a minute. And we see the guy who's going camping and his eggs are broken. Now, first of all, in terms of a real market, how many people do you know that are watching us today? Survey to the audience. How many people have taken eggs into the bush or the forest and broken their eggs and needed a drone delivery? Anyway, let's go on. Okay, now, again, eggs. And you see this drone that's right next to him here. I'm guessing this drone is not a DJI drone for, $1,000. We're going to be talking big money, big infrastructure. How much is he going to be selling the egg for to make a profit and to make a buck and for this commercial operation to actually be successful? Let's go on. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I do actually love the technology that he's got there with this company, the A to Z aircraft company. Literally just dropping it and free falling with a tether, but having a braking system that decelerates it as it approaches the ground. From a technology perspective, that's absolutely wonderful. But I don't know if maybe the eggs is a good way of illustrating that, it's going to get down safely with this free fall system, but still. So I'll go to John first. What do you think, John? What are your thoughts?
Well, again, I mean, there's so much you're thinking about to do the two eggs. So it's just, I suppose that's an example, because if it was, I immediately think, why wouldn't you sell this if you had an injury? You're more likely than breaking your eggs to break your arm, or need an anaphylaxis device or.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, if you've got medical equipment like an injection syringe anaphylaxis, for example, you don't want the glass to break.
Why the eggs? Anyway, so so look, let's put something sensible in there. Let's talk about an emergency response to a remote location. We're right in the ballpark there. For a start, going back to Bill's point, there's certainly some regulatory scope there to do that in a remote area. Perhaps the parks division, the people who are flying, and national parks have their own a drone service now and REOC license. They could easily use an aircraft like that to go and find someone in the dark to deliver a medicine or an emergency kit, to all sorts of stuff. So let's get real. Let's and think about how, yes, the aircraft can do the job. The problem is, and the reason we get all these videos with delivering eggs, is that we're at the stage where we've got machines, and you're going to see Bill's machine today that will do a job like this. We've got the technology, and that seemed to be the hard part, But now we've got the machines, the robots that will actually do this job. Back to Bill's point, the regulatory is the problem. So why not establish a delivery in those environments that you can do at the moment, and actually build around and prove the technology. And then as a UTM matures, we'll see that in cities. But delivering a pizza to an urban area or anything is, as I said, complicated. So I like the idea of someone going camping, but I like to see a bit more thought about how it might be used effectively.
I'll say I like the free fall idea, but the whole idea of using eggs, all I can say is,
yeah,
it's.
All right, I get it.
It's. I thought it was a yoke when I first saw it. Oh, sorry, a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, what do you got?
I agree with you. The reason they delivered eggs and made a silly situation around eggs, I think, is to demonstrate the fact that the mechanical design of their device is still very gentle on the payload, and it's not getting a hard stop. And my understanding with that company, by the way, I love the mechanical design of the device.
Me too.
And I don't believe their business model is actually the package delivery solution. I believe their business model is to be the supplier or license of their device to other drone package delivery solutions providers. So it's meant to illustrate their technology, but I don't believe it's in their business model to actually provide the complete package delivery solution. But I've not actually spoken with them in person, so I don't know that for sure.
Okay, fair enough. But again, a commercial guy in me says there's not enough money in it except for specific use cases, and the things, back to the previous story, that Google and Wing are doing. I don't know that there's real money in it, but we can have a chat about that after the show, and certainly viewers, go and continue to put your comments up and we'll show them on the screen. Let's move on to our next story for now, and this one is about a safe zone trial. Flying around buildings often has challenges of wind, increasing risk, particularly for automated flight. Safe Zone worked within the regulated environment of Cardiff Airport to test out the capability with large buildings and aircraft creating wind effects that traditionally would have been difficult to model and predict, and even more challenging to measure.
The Safe Zone and Flarebright, and is part of the Innovate UK Future Flight Phase 2 programme. By the end of the project, we should be able to provide high-resolution CFD modelling of urban airspaces and airports, which will improve the safety and operation of drones and other aircraft.
Xenotech specialises in cloud computing and aerodynamics, and we're using our software to provide a model for the aerodynamics characteristics all around Cardiff Airport. We're going to be directly validating that with data taken from the Snapshot Nano drone.
The Flarebright Snapshot Nano drone has a miniaturised navigation system and is trained in a cutting-edge machine learning digital twin environment, which enables it to give an accurate measure of the wind. The data service is an online system called AirSight.
So this is a long video and we're not going to watch the entire thing here today. Let's cut back to the studio.
Being upgraded as part of the program.
And just briefly, so they've got these nano drones which are able to measure the wind in real time. They've got the equipment on there in the form of sensors. But I think it's a really interesting research project to go and say, hey, how do you fly around challenging environments? How do you update your AI to deal with some of those effects?
Yep. I see that type of weather forecasting and modelling in swarm drones being one of the things of the future. There's an undiscovered and untapped market there. We're looking at the way the sensors are becoming more complicated. But I imagine inside a UTM, you'd have drones in a box all around the place, simply launching, measuring the barometric pressure, the humidity, atmosphere, and then landing. And then we would have so much more accurate weather forecasting. It would increase the modelling, sophistication and results and accuracy unbelievably. Rather than the finger in the air kind of thing. It would be used for all aviation. It would be used for monitoring severe weather events and everything. That's coming. Believe me. The idea of measuring the atmosphere, and also then you would be able to integrate the drone data into your flight so that the modeling would include, so I know the wind strength at 2,000 feet in this area. It's been measured, actually measured correctly, and rather than calculated. And then, of course, your flight plan would be adjusted suitably. That's all part of a UTM in terms of how that might work. But I haven't seen any swarm weather drone ideas come to market or come to the idea yet. Bill might know of some that where that's being talked, but it is another one of the millions of things that our aircraft can do and will be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll ask Bill at that in a couple of minutes. Let's get the next few stories off so we don't have you sitting around too long. Otherwise, I
want to talk about Bill's airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at our next story for now, and that would be, if I press the right button, this one. FPV flyers usually have plenty of mismatched bits lying around after a few crashes. I think that's fair. We'll all agree with that. And in this vein, one FPV flyer, Jason Suter, he decided to raid his junk box and build himself a little FPV airboat using some of his spare parts. His airboat consists of a 3D printed hull paired with separate power module. The power module houses also the flight controller and mounts the twin motors on the rear, fitted with 3 blade props. They propel the boat and allow it to be steered with differential thrust instead of a rudder. It's also then fitted with a camera to allow it to be piloted with an FPV headset.
If you're anything like me and you've been in FPV for a while, you probably have a growing collection of broken components. And this project was something that I designed in order to use those up. So the first thing to do was to test it on land. I have first designed this single piece 3D printable one, which looked really cute. It has sort of chibi look going on, but honestly it was garbage. It did not work on water at all. I don't even have any footage of it working on water because it was rubbish and it sank. But here it is zipping around on a hard concrete floor, and at that it was pretty awesome. So Mark II, I decided to use just a bit of balsa wood, go real old school.
Now again, this is a quite substantially long video, and I don't want to play the entire thing here. I just wanted to give you guys a taste of it. The links of all of the videos that we feature are always quoted in full in the description of our video. So do go and check that out on the original channel. But absolutely hilarious way of going and using the existing bits that you've got left lying around from your FPV crashes. Now, John,
Greg.
Here's the thing. This is a Hackaday project, and they've actually got the plans and specifications. You can go and get those plans and specifications yourself and download the 3D print bits, and you can build one. I mean, let's face it. By the way, Bill, if you didn't know, John, my co-host there, lives on a boat. He's on a houseboat. So if anyone's going to build something like this, it's got to be him.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you can almost see out the window. Look, we're all thinking, as soon as I saw that, I thought, great, I'm going to get one of those. Living on a boat, fantastic airboat. And look, if you fly FPV, how many motors, props, stuff. The other thing, Greg, I'm thinking I might 3D print one. Makes sense to me. It's the right size. I could easily grab a couple of boom arms and motors, but easily print a hull, which would be fun too. And you can change the design. And look, that's a great idea. And it's a using of spare parts. Recycling. Everybody, recycling. That's fantastic. And if you fly FPV, you're always going to have lots of broken bits. There's no doubt about that. From day one, actually, the very first day you get an FPV airplane,
you'll be having some spare parts. Yeah. We had a comment from one of our viewers here. What if an alligator tries to eat it? And that's in reference to, has everyone here seen the alligator video?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Have you seen that video, John?
Yeah, I heard about that one, grabbing a spark, wasn't it? Yeah.
I don't know what the aircraft was, but certainly he had a spark in his mouth after it.
Boom, boom. And actually, the right term there, what it was, because it isn't anymore. Now, if you did create one of those, imagine even fishing, and you could have it with a camera out there. So you're doing your fishing, you got your mate with you, and then you can drive this thing around and catch videos of you in the boat and the fish jumping out of the water. And then even if a shark comes up and eats the thing, you'd have to be screenshotting the video, wouldn't you? I mean,
absolutely.
I'm interested. This has got a lot of legs on it, and we're all looking for the greatest video, aren't we? That we're shooting with our robots. So look, that's a great idea. There's another one you can do, Greg, that you can convert to a flying version of that. And they're available commercially as well. And I can't think it's a hybrid, but it's a hydrofoil hybrid. And it actually, all you do is you make the hull with a little bit of a wing shape, and it goes on land, water, and of course in the air. So I'm thinking that could be fun.
Lots of fun. Let's move to one more story before we get our guest in. And this one's a very topical story of interest. A Springfield neighborhood has some privacy concerns after a drone was spotted flying over a few backyards, with the pilot being a non-resident flying from his vehicle parked nearby. Have a look at this story.
Extra set of eyes in the sky peering into backyards has one Springfield neighborhood on edge. Some homeowners say they've spotted drones flying right outside their homes. Michael Manskoik breaks down their privacy concerns and the legality of those robots in the skies.
Sounded like a bug was in my ear, so I was trying to shake the bug off.
The buzzing Matt Villa heard this morning didn't come from a bug. Nope, it was a drone like this one.
As I looked up, I saw the drone coming from my backyard over my house.
Villa says he doesn't mind neighborhood drone flying, but the location of this particular one, a different story.
But when there's just a random drone that's not in your front yard, but it's in your backyard, that's a little more, invasive.
He says what really concerned him, though, was an unfamiliar car around the block.
Everyone in this neighborhood's pretty aware of what goes on around here. That's why when I spotted that car, it was already, it stood out to me. It's not a normal car. I've never seen it around here. And then when I see a drone, I kind of could connect them pretty easily.
Villa says the person in the car admitted to flying the drone. He says the pilot got a bit defensive when he asked questions, but when it comes to privacy, one local drone pilot says,
just someone looking in your backyard with a drone is not a privacy issue. Looking in your window in your house would be. The Supreme Court has already ruled that even in your backyard with a privacy fence, if you're outside your home, you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in an open air setting.
The FAA has very specific rules on drone flight safety, But when it comes to privacy, Jason Preston says that's not the FAA's job. He says there are already other laws in place for those concerns.
If someone is looking in your window, whether they're using a ladder, they're climbing on the fence, a zoom camera, anything, that is, they're peeping in your house. So that doesn't need to be a specific, you can't peep in my house with a drone, because that's already illegal.
Regardless, Villa says he warned his neighbors to keep an eye out for any suspicious activity.
Just keep your eyes peeled. You know, you never know whether it's someone good, someone bad, but I'd at least like to know.
From Springfield, I'm Michael Van Scoik.
Now, that drone pilot, Jason Preston, says if you have issues with how someone is flying their drone, it's best to contact law enforcement. Also, keep this in mind. He also says it's illegal to shoot down a drone.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. Only in America. So first comments. I'd love our viewers to go and put their thoughts about this, and we'll get Grumpy to put them up on the screen. But back to the question.
We're going to end up debating privacy forever. Everyone's got a different idea of privacy. You know what I mean? You do. Some people object to being photographed in public by someone's iPhone, and if they take a photo, they'll go up and challenge them. Of course, the drone flying around. Oh, look, all I can say is, guys, you know, don't do it. You know, I mean, don't put yourself in a situation where you might be in the 6 o'clock news and bring up the debate again. You know, let's have the story about the drone guy in the car that where one of the kids has run off and he's helped them find the kid. You know, like, let's have those stories. Don't go in the backyard. So look, I don't want the debate about whether, look, you're looking in the window or you're not looking in the window. The person who owns the backyard doesn't care about that. You know, they're just going to be irritated, you know, by it anyway. I understand it. You know, I understand it perfectly. So do the right thing. Is that the,
you know what?
Ahead, Lloyd? You
know what, though, John? I'll just briefly say I like one of the arguments that guy put about filming into someone's house versus filming into a backyard, on the assumption that a general aviation aircraft can see exactly the same thing that a drone can see. Yeah, yes. We've talked about that before, and that is really the demarcation line. Having said that, we shouldn't do it anyway. We don't literally go and fly in someone's backyard.
No, you don't need to do it, you know. So
yeah.
Anyway, look, I'll leave it at that. I don't think anyone sort of that hangs around this show much would disagree with us. You know, being neighbourly is part of being an aviator for a start with, whether you're flying manned aircraft or unmanned aircraft or whatever you're flying. An aviator generally likes to be neighbourly in the way they do everything. You know,
I like to think of 2 rules. Don't be excessively annoying, i.e. don't fly in someone's backyard. But there's a rule for the property owners. Don't be easily annoyed.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, let's leave that for now. And I forgot to get the title build up for our guest. So let's just cut to our guest, Bill, who we've already had before. Bill, welcome back.
Cool. Hello.
Okay, let's do a quick little intro. Bill, you're from the Advanced Aircraft Company. You are the CEO. Were you also the founder?
Yes to both. Yep.
Okay. I'll get you to briefly explain the background and the heritage of that, but I'll also ask you to tilt your computer a little bit so we don't cut off your head. There we go.
Right. Yes. Very good. Wonderful. And that's where I normally like to start. It's always great to know a little bit about the person before you hear sort of the pitch, and the business model builds trust and rapport with folks. So my background, I've actually been around aviation since I was a kid. My father, he retired from American Airlines as an airline pilot, and he had like 10,000 hours flying 737s, and he retired off the Airbus 320 series. A fun joke is he used to say, you know, the difference between a new Airbus pilot and an experienced Airbus pilot is the new Airbus pilot goes, oh my God, what's the airplane doing? And then the experienced Airbus pilot goes, oh my God, the airplane's doing it again. But so I've heard stories like that growing up as a kid all the time. And when I was 13 years old, he bought me my first 2 flying lessons in a glider. And he said, well, did you like it? Was that fun? I was like, yeah, that was so awesome, flying a glider. And he did the crack dealer thing. He's like, great, I bought the first 2 lessons. From now on, you get a job and pay for all the rest of your flight training. And I was like, what? Come on. So, but in either case, as the story rolls out, I got my private pilot's license in a glider and got my single engine rating, my multi-engine rating, and my instrument rating. I currently own an airplane. I own a Piper Lance, which is 6 seats, 1 prop on the nose, retractable landing gear. My wife calls it the magic carpet, and we can throw the kids, the car seats, the dogs, all the bags, and we hop in and go. And it's a wonderful way to travel. I've been around aviation for a while. College, I went to school at Purdue University, got a degree in aeronautical engineering, and graduated 4th in my engineering class. And I served in the Marine Corps as an artillery officer. I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2011. And actually, I'm a 3rd generation Marine. So both my father and grandfather were Marines. And we got talking about that a little bit before the show kicked off. And I spent some time in the reserves and also worked at NASA Langley Research Center as an aerospace engineer. And fun fact, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who can say they're a Marine and a legit NASA rocket scientist, because those aren't normally considered.
They don't go together normally. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Okay. And what was the
aircraft design group, the Aeronautics Systems Analysis branch, and I left there in May of 2017 to found Advanced Aircraft Company. So that's my personal background.
Okay. And what was the trigger point for you saying, I'm going to do this? What was the inspirational moment for you?
Yeah, that's a wonderful story too. So working at NASA, there was a project that came into, I was in the aircraft design group, and a project from another government agency, and I just got to leave it at that, that said, we want a drone that can take off and land vertically, yet fly for 24 hours, 2 diametrically opposed requirement sets. And they actually first went to the aerospace primes, and they came back with conceptual designs of these big catapults and these catch nets. And they're like, no, we want vertical takeoff and landing like a helicopter. And they're like, well, that's impossible. Like, there's no way with any sort of foreseeable future technology that we can make a helicopter fly over 24 hours. And so they said, well, I wonder what the space cadets at NASA can come up with. And when the job came into our group, I said to myself, well, that's interesting. I'm naive enough to want to work on that job. So we did some conceptual design work, and I had an interesting conclusion for him. I said, you know what? Your requirements are feasible from a performance perspective. If you were to consider an unconventional vehicle configuration, something that could transition from a multi-rotor flight mode into a very cruise efficient, high aspect ratio wing-borne flight mode. And that turned into what was then later called the Greased Lightning. So, here's a photo of our first product of Advanced Aircraft Company, which is a very different project than Greased Lightning. So Greased Lightning is a tilt wing with 10 props on it. And we ended up doing the detailed design work. We fabricated it, we built it, we flew it. You can Google search NASA Greased Lightning and watch the public affairs video on YouTube. And we said, this technology is feasible. And we quite literally put the aircraft up on a shelf, broke up the team to go work the next job. And that's just what NASA does. It's not NASA's role to commercialize things. It's NASA's role to develop new technology and test the feasibility of it, and to enable the U.S. aerospace industry to stay ahead of other countries. And that's when I said to myself, well, do I really want to be a government researcher, or do I want to see this technology that I just led the development of commercialized? And that was the impetus for me to start my transition out of NASA and found Advanced Aircraft Company.
Okay, we had a look at one photo a moment ago. Let's just quickly look at this one. And what are we seeing here?
So this is our first product line called HAMMER. It stands for Hybrid Advanced Multi-Rotor.
Can I just stop you there for just 1 second? Just 1 second.
Hammer time.
That's all.
Oh,
it had to be done.
It's hammer time. Yep. And so our first, so I should give a little bit more context. I left NASA with the intention of commercializing grease lightning. Doing some business planning, I realized I needed about $8 million before I could make a penny of revenue. And that was just sort of a non-starter. No investor was going to give a space cadet walking out of NASA with zero business acumen the opportunity to go do that. So I said to myself, well, we got to pivot. What's the pivot? The pivot is Hammer, which is the product that we're now selling. So part of the strategic planning on the growth of the company was the NASA Greased Lightning was battery powered only as part of a cost savings measure. And the intention, we knew we needed a series hybrid electric propulsion system to make Greased Lightning do those really long flights, because we need the specific energy of liquid fuels instead of just relying on the specific energy of batteries. And so I said, well, what could we do that's cheaper on a shorter timeline that we could fund on a smaller budget? And that's the Hammer product line. So I designed Hammer to be of appropriate size, that the hybrid electric propulsion system that'll go into Greased Lightning is the same hybrid electric propulsion system that's now being shipped to customers on our first product line, Hammer. So that shot from a second ago, that is the hybrid electric propulsion system on the vehicle. It is a computer-controlled, fuel-injected, two-stroke gasoline engine that's spinning a high-frequency AC generator, which is actively rectified back to 48 volts DC. And so it's not old-fashioned diode rectification. It's MOSFETs, like in an ESC, actively switching on and off to rectify the AC back to lumpy DC. Then with capacitors, you're smoothing that out to get the smooth power. And on
so at this point, I'm going to switch over and put John on the screen with you, because I'm sure he's got questions galore that he's going to. Yeah, John, get into it.
I'm listening at the moment, so continue on. I'm taking it in. It looks great. Please, that's good. I'll ask keep going. That's great.
So on the 48 volt DC propulsion bus is also a much smaller lithium polymer battery pack. And that LiPo battery pack serves two purposes. The first is the autopilot can throttle up and down the motors with the electric motor spinning the props at a much higher frequency than the generator is able to respond. So there's a much longer time constant on the response of the generator. So say you're just hovering steady state and you just suddenly throttle up to do an aggressive climb, that transient's going to pull from the battery pack. Then with time, the computer controls on the engine are going to say, well, let's ramp up the throttle till it reaches back to steady state again. And conversely, if you suddenly throttle down hard to command an aggressive descent, the generator can't throttle down that quickly, and a charge transient goes into the battery pack. So you could almost think of the LiPo battery pack as a really, really big capacitor. So that's the first function it serves. The second function, and this is something kind of cool and unique, is we're the first combustion-powered UAS to disconnect loss of engine from loss of vehicle. To say that again, every other combustion-powered drone out there, loss of the engine means you lose the drone. You lose the whole aircraft, you lose your expensive payload package, gone. And that happens often. What's nice about the battery backup is we have a little less than 2 minutes of flight time. There's enough energy in that battery pack to fly the vehicle. So you're not urgently scrambling to get it on the ground, but you do have to abort your mission and say, okay, there's a nice spot on the flat spot there. Why don't I tell it to land there? So while it's not a lot of time, it does give you the time to think rationally and set it down. So, and again, this would be in the event of an engine failure. This is not something done under normal operations. And with all the computer controls on the engine, you just flip the switch to on and the computer handles everything else. There's no pull start, there's no choking, there's no priming, there's no adjustment of a mixture screw. The engine's fuel injection system handles all of that for you. So you just tell it to run or you tell it to be shut down and the computer controls do everything else. So that's the overview of the technology itself.
You know, there was something you mentioned before the show, and I like the way you explain it, comparing it to a hybrid vehicle. What was those words again?
Yes.
What did you say?
Yeah, so think of it like a hybrid car. So a lot of times in the drone space, when people talk about a hybrid drone, they're referring to a lift plus cruise configuration, or as I sometimes affectionately like to call it, it's like an airplane and a quadcopter having a baby. So often in the drone space, when people say a hybrid drone, that's what they're thinking of. In our case, we're referring to hybrid electric propulsion in our case. So it's like a hybrid car. So there's a gas engine and there's batteries, and that provides the power to transport the vehicle. And a hybrid car can drive a much longer distance than an all battery powered car of similar price point.
Okay. So we've been looking at your aircraft there. John, have you got some other thoughts you want to add in?
Yeah. Is it sort of right to think, Bill? I mean, the petrol engine is really like a big charger for the batteries. Is the battery always between the electric motors and the generator itself? Is there a way where if a battery failed, it still wouldn't be able to fly off the generator power directly? Is that right?
Yeah, the propulsion system, I'll say propulsion system because there's a number of components in the propulsion system, is connected in parallel with the LiPo battery pack. And then off that bus is where all the power is drawn to the motor controllers to spin the props. So power can go in all directions.
Yep, gotcha. Yep. Okay, that's good. I think it's great. I mean, this is one of the boundaries that has sat around multi-copter technology is this limited flight time. And really, a lot of this, I mean, surely not apart from expanding the endurance, being able to fly for much, much longer, I imagine you'd be able to lift a lot more weight in terms of payload with this as well, because you've just got available power. You know, you can actually beef everything up pretty much.
Well, actually, in our value proposition is longer flight time and not so much increased payload capacity. So of a drone of a similar takeoff weight, our payload capacity is actually less.
Okay.
Because we're adding an engine, we're adding a generator, we're adding power electronics, a fuel pump and a coolant pump, and all these other systems are added to the vehicle. So we can't carry as much weight as a similar sized pure battery powered multi-rotor. Okay. But if you look at battery powered multi-rotors, they're often trying to push flight time and putting on a lot of extra batteries and not trying to carry very heavy weights. So for the market or the use case where you have to do heavy lift, we're really not a great fit for that problem. But the economic value proposition, the business model here about limited flight time, say you're just carrying sensors or cameras. In general, those aren't all that heavy. Like if you're doing heavy package delivery, that's a use case where heavy lift becomes much more valuable. But if you're normally just carrying sensors and things, in general, our customers, the UAV operators, they're generating revenue by the acre or by the mile. Yeah. And they're paying their pilots by the hour. And the industry average today, well, let me first say the commercial drone industry today, about 80% of flight ops are using battery powered multi-rotors. And a battery powered multi-rotor operator today is averaging only 3.4 hours of productive utilization in an 8-hour workday. Yeah. And if you think about that for a minute, that is a terrible productivity metric for a services industry. And that is the economic value proposition that we solve at Advanced Aircraft Company, is instead of needing to stop your data collection to swap batteries every 20 minutes, the drone just stays in the air and we can get nearly 6 hours of productive utilization in an 8-hour workday. So, and you can see how that would dramatically improve the profitability of our customers.
So I'm just having a look at some comments here, a couple of our viewers. So what is the endurance of the Hammer aircraft?
So our minimum viable product that's selling now, we can lift 4 pounds of payload and fly 2 hours.
Okay. And where do you think that's going? So that's your current MVP, and that's going into future drawing board plans. What's your target within, say, the next 12 months?
Within the next 12 months, we'll have a heavier lift version coming out, because one of the things we've been finding with our customer discovery process, there's a lot of folks that are flying LiDAR systems, and most LiDAR systems are 8 to 10 pounds, and which is obviously above the lift capacity of our current product. And in those use cases, putting a heavy LiDAR in a battery-powered drone, and LiDARs are super expensive, so they often don't want to push the envelope on how far they can push the batteries. And so they're doing 10 to 15-minute flights with a LiDAR on batteries, and just horrible productivity. So that's going to be our next step, is an increased gross weight version that can lift heavier payloads. And then the step after that will be Grease Lightning, which was the technology I led the development of at NASA. And Hammer is a revolutionary leapfrog beyond a battery-powered multirotor. Grease Lightning is a revolutionary leapfrog beyond Hammer. So Grease Lightning it would be doing missions of 18 to 20 hours.
Okay. Look, interesting to have a look at that. You got any more questions, Sean?
Yeah, Bill, did you ever look at the possibility of using a micro turbine engine to do the same job?
Yes, and I one of the things, and I also get the question about fuel cells and things like that. I am at the aircraft system level. I don't have any, I guess, preferences or favorite children, or to use the analogy of a parent. I am most interested in whichever propulsion system technology is best value to my customer.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges with a turbine is turbines are very Reynolds number dependent, meaning they do not scale down well. And a turbine that puts out a couple to a few kilowatts is very inefficient. A turbine made that small doesn't have very good efficiency. So, and also turbines are very expensive.
Yeah,
so we can actually fly longer with an internal combustion engine based solution, and we're cheaper with an internal combustion engine based solution. And so as or if turbine engine technology advances at the small scale, we'll always be open to considering that. But we want to go with the propulsion system that's best value proposition to our customer.
Yeah, that's great. If it's a gasoline, it's nice to be able to just go to the local service station and, you know, grab a couple of 4 or 5 liters of fuel and go and put it in, you know, rather than looking for Jet A1, you know.
And as part of our customer discovery process, that was one of the things we talked about is fuel cells. I mean, conceptually, a fuel cell is a better solution. You're going from that energy storage product directly to what you need, electricity. But so conceptually, the fuel cell is the right solution. Some of the challenges with fuel cells is price point. A fuel cell system to put out a similar number of kilowatts of electricity is about 4 to 5 times more expensive. It's nice that there's no noise and no vibration. But the other challenge with a fuel cell consuming hydrogen is the hydrogen storage. And the hydrogen itself, well, that's buoyant. So the hydrogen's not the problem. It's the pressurized hydrogen tank.
The tank that holds it.
The tank that holds the hydrogen is very heavy. So the resulting flight time we can get out of a fuel cell-based solution is also less than. Now, there's an exception. If you were to go to liquid hydrogen, like on a launch vehicle, and liquid hydrogen is a much lighter weight storage solution, but now we're talking about the danger, the safety issues, and complexity of dealing with launching rockets. And I'm sorry, that's just not a scalable business model for mass market adoption.
It's too hard. Imagine getting urban area permission for flying with liquid hydrogen on board.
Oh my goodness, it'd be crazy.
You know, I know the amount of years that they spent developing a kerosene model for Jet A1 with the flash point, you know, a high flash point temperature, so it was nice and safe. Even avgas, the same sort of deal, where you've got a petroleum product with a high flash point, which for if you hadn't heard that word before, it just means that you need a higher temperature, a higher spark to ignite it. So it's a safer product. But yeah,
those heavy fuels are incredible. I've in my time in the Marine Corps, an old Motor T chief took a cigarette and he just stuck it in the JP8 and the cigarette just went out. And I'm like, yeah, I conceptually knew that, but it's still pretty ballsy to physically do it.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Particularly it's close by your vehicle. Yeah.
Can I just jump in for a minute? I'm looking at a few of the questions in the chat here. On your existing aircraft, what size are the props? That question from Alexis.
29 inches in diameter and 6 propellers.
Okay. Other questions. How big is the aircraft in general? Let's say weight and let's say wingspan.
Rotors turning were 11 feet wide, which is pretty darn big. And there's actually some aerodynamic reasons for that. I don't know how much detail I wanted. I love getting into the technical stuff, but sometimes I go a little too far. So rotors turning, it's 11 feet wide. However, it quickly packs into a storage case. I have a small hatchback car, and you can throw it right in the back of a hatchback car. So as assembled, it's pretty wide, but it packs down into a much smaller form factor that you can put in a hatchback car.
Okay. And
max takeoff weight, 40 pounds.
Okay. There were a couple of others. What's the noise factor like of the aircraft?
So the noise. So there, you can clearly hear that there's an engine running, and the way I relate it is it sounds like your neighbor using their weed eater or weed whacker, the 2-stroke gas engine. And so by OSHA is the safety standards here in the United States. OSHA says you do not have to wear earplugs, but you can clearly hear it. One of the things actually we are working on right now is a much lower noise muffler. And for some customers, noise is more sensitive. For more commercial and industrial applications, like there's other pieces of equipment that make more noise than the drone, so it doesn't really matter. But we're confident we can pull 7 dBA and maybe even 10 dBA off the engine exhaust noise signature with this low noise muffler that we're working on.
Okay. I've got another question over here from Wayne King. He asks, how much money does the quad produce? And of course, your answer is it produces lots of money in the hands of a capable pilot and businessman.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a question of like what job you're doing, what's the value per acre, how often you're doing it. To say a short answer this way, if you're a busy operator and you're working 40 hours a week every single week, you can break even on buying our more expensive drone in just over 4 months, which is a pretty compelling break-even value proposition.
Okay. Look, it's been interesting to have a look at that. Have you got any last comments you want to share with our audience, or any questions from either John or Grumpy? Have you got anything there, either of you?
No,
I'm just sitting here amazed listening to him.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Again, we're seeing more people in the industry coming in with solutions. We've got all of these various problems, and the solutions are someone's got to put them together and make them work, and make them work commercially. And that's a point you've been making, Bill. Even talking about cost recovery, making the point that if I'm going to buy one of your aircraft and the work, what is the end benefit? Encourage people to do it, and you're working on that. That's another solution, but also in terms of a technology as well. That's a big aeroplane. That'd be something a multi-rotor bigger than anything I've flown before, and would require some skill to manage. But of course, having yourself like a company that produced the product and supply the training and the manuals and everything else. You're a solution provider, in a sense, which is great. And look forward to seeing in the future what the aircraft, how it develops in Mark II and Mark III. So please visit us again and tell us where you're up to. I know you said when we were chatting a bit before the show, you're interested in car technology and various how you would use some of your UAV technology with car manufacturers. So there's a whole nother story in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as a former NASA rocket scientist, I love the technology, but at least I can admit that our customers don't buy our product because they think it's cool. Our customers buy our product because it's the right business decision to make. So a business solves somebody's problem for money. And so if you're not solving somebody's problem to make them more efficient, it's not really a scalable business model.
Correct.
Well, as well as solving business problems, I like to solve the answers to life, the universe, and everything. And also,
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stump the Yank.
Here we go.
Okay.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have some fun. We play a game with our guests called Stump the Yank, where we pit the intelligence, wit, and charm of Lloyd the Grumpy Vlogger and an honorary Australian against our guests as we play Stump the Yank.
Right. Boy, you sure overplayed that a little bit.
That was your introduction, Lloyd. That's the best you're going to get today, mate.
Well, I think he over exaggerated the intelligence part, but we'll go ahead and go with it anyways.
So what do we got, Lloyd?
All right, I had some picked out, and then I got so interested in listening to him that I forgot what I did, where I put him.
Well, I'll give you one first of all, and this one is one that doesn't have a list of answers for you to pick from. But could you tell me, what is the origin of Pluck a Duck?
Ooh, I do not know the answer to that question.
I don't think
I've
I know
actually
it.
not even heard of it.
Do you know? You don't know, John?
I do. Are we talking about a TV show?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say,
okay,
what
good.
an
I do know
Australian
it.
TV
Yeah.
show. Yeah,
Yeah, it's totally
an
TV
Australian
show.
TV show.
Oh, look,
Was it for the lotto or something? I can't remember what it was.
So
there was,
it's an Australian TV show, and they just imagine a big merry-go-round with little ducks with numbers on them, and the contestants got to pull a duck from the merry-go-round, and that gives them a number, which gives them a prize. But the origin, even before that, was Chook Lotto. That's what came before Pluck a Duck. And they used to have frozen chickens in a barrel, just like a lotto barrel, to pick the numbers out. And some people didn't like the idea of using frozen chickens.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I got one.
Okay.
What is a singer? I'm going to give you three choices. Is it a mixed drink with some wine in it? Is it a sandwich? Or is it one of the pop stars of Australia currently? A singer.
Good question.
I'm going to go with the second one by reading your face, and I have no idea. But just going off of reading your face, I'm going to guess the second one.
Yeah.
Did you get that right? Because I can't.
He got it right.
The second one was now. He got it right. That's what I thought. Okay. All right. Yeah. What was the other one? What's a snag? Is it a sausage, the name of a beer, or is it the name of a rugby team in Australia? A nickname for a rugby team.
Harder to read your face on that one. I don't know. I really, it would just be nothing but a guess out of the blue. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So pick one.
Yes.
All right. B.
What was B?
It was the first one. B
Oh,
B
the
was B was I forgot what B was. The first one was a sandwich. I mean a sausage.
Sausage.
Oh, okay. Sausage.
Yeah. And let's see if I got one more. Oh well, let's go with this one. This is it. What are everybody knows I've used this, but you haven't watched the show, so it's good. What are budgie smugglers? Are those pirates in Australia? Is that what they call the old pirates that used to smuggle birds out of Australia.
And we all know that Australia's got the strictest quarantine laws in the world. So, yeah, that could be.
So, yeah, it makes good sense. Is it the name of a pop rock group down there? Because they got weird names for all those rock groups.
We do.
Or is it the name of Speedos?
Which are also famously modelled by our former Australian Prime Minister.
All right, so I'm going with option C with the reference that was provided.
Yeah, Speedo. Thanks, Greg. You gave it away.
Okay, well done. That was a lot of fun.
Well done.
We've got so many weird things in Australia that have come into our culture, and I like to have a bit of fun with our guests from around the world. But thank you very, very much for being our guest today. It was wonderful to have a look at your aircraft, and certainly if you stick around in the chat room, maybe you'll sell a couple today.
Yeah.
I would love that.
And basically, we're ramping up our sales now. We're a young company, and anyone who has a commercial application where you're tired of swapping batteries every 20 minutes, come talk to us. We've got a solution for you.
Let me just ask the question, right? So we've got in Australia there was a carpet company, and it was called the Little Doers, and they had an advertising slogan, which was "Tell them the price, son." What kind of ballpark numbers are we talking for some of your aircraft there? Just to share that.
So the base model vehicle, not including sensors, payloads, ground station, starts at $58,500, and depending on the type of ground station you want, or if you need longer range radios, or the type of sensors you want included, that adds to the price. So we're starting at $58,500 plus the other add-ons that you would need for your solution, and there's a wide spectrum there.
So I want to go to John now and ask you, John, as a commercial pilot yourself, how do you see that fitting into the marketplace?
Oh, well, honestly, you need to, if you shop around, you'll see there are a lot more expensive aircraft. Some of the bigger multi-rotors that have perhaps a little bit longer flight time, still on the older technology, are upwards of 200,000. We talked about the Autel Dragonfish solution, and I was thinking, wow, that's going to be great. And then all of a sudden, we saw a price tag of $240,000.
The Dragonfish is that expensive? You got to be kidding me!
It is nearly $250,000 US, the Dragonfish. Now,
my goodness! I did not realize it was that expensive.
A wing would cost $58,000 for that thing. So you've got to get into perspective. The technology. Having bought a new ground station autopilot, and I know what the generator and motors cost because I priced those. I'd say you're putting them together pretty cheaply, Bill, actually, because the components are expensive. We're talking about an aircraft of that size, and the motors and propellers on that size. You're buying, $1,000 props. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And actually, the most expensive thing on it is the hybrid electric propulsion system, and with scale, we'll be able to bring that price down. But for right now, at our low production rates, that is the most expensive thing. It is working with the engine company and their propulsion system.
Yeah, and it will come down too, Bill, because we've seen initially autopilots, the expense of those, and now we mass produce them, a lot more in the market. They're a tenth of what they were in the old days, and modifying computers, and the technology you're using is quite new, and so that's where that's at, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Look, thank you again, Bill, for joining us today. Did you have something, Grumpy?
Yeah, I had one little thing. Being an Air Force veteran, I would like you to know that you are without a doubt the most intelligent Marine I have ever listened
to. Well, thank you. And as an Air Force veteran, we used to call you guys the Chair Force, or civilians in uniform. So I'm glad you enjoyed the golf course and the yacht club, and Yep.
Oh, we did. We loved it. Yeah, I've heard it all. Yep.
Okay. So thanks again, Bill, for being with us today. It was wonderful to have you in. We're going to get back to our regular news for the moment. Stick around in the chat room, say hi to some of our viewers. And again, if there's anything that piques your interest in the stories, let us know and we'll see how we go with that. Let's move on to our next news story, which is this one. It's a drone light show. Fans were in for a treat on Friday night as 200 drones lit up above the Coliseum. Major League Baseball and Sky Element sponsored the Star Wars themed light show.
All right,
Now,
in case you missed it, Friday night at the Oakland Coliseum, this was kind of fun for you Star Wars buffs. This is a drone show, 200 drones.
Now, I'm going to turn their audio down. I don't know what the A's are. That's the name of the team, I assume, Grumpy.
That's a baseball team. Yes.
Yeah. But as you watch some of these,
Days.
yeah, as you watch some of these animations, have a look if you can see it in the stands down below. We missed it. Can we play that from the top again? I'll get my producer to just rewind. Look in the stands. You can see people moving around just a little bit. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much they speed up some of these light shows to get it to the point where you can actually see some of that animation, which you kind of expect, but it's just interesting to have a look at the scale there. So that's that one. We'll move on to our next story. I'm just going to zip through them a little bit because we're already over time. This one is I think, a really interesting story. We were talking before about positioning sensors and so forth. This one is an electronics engineer is building an unmanned aircraft system from scratch in his spare time. The drone will have the capability to position a radio receiver or emitter or both at virtually any point without having to wait hours for testing and to move other equipment. Let's just have a quick look at this.
The goal of this system was to have a flying antenna platform where we can put any kind of antenna on the drone and do any kind of RF testing without actually having a stationary antenna. The way it was done before was we set up an antenna in just one spot and we probed at just one spot. Well, when the system under test or the SUT arrives in the chamber, that RF is everywhere, and we want to test to see what kind of environment the SUT is in, and we didn't have that capability before. So
I'm just going to fade the audio for that and just comment, as someone who's worked in the telecommunications sector, this has got a lot of possibilities, doing cell tower calibrations and all of that kind of stuff, just making it really easy to go and measure your frequency propagation and interference patterns with other signal sources that might be interfering. Really good use of the technology. He's using it in an aviation perspective where he's doing stuff to do with aircrafts and their signals in and out for both radar and transmission and other military applications, but also I think telecommunications, there's a lot of application for that product in the market. So that's really, really cool. I'm going to skip forward again, go to our next one. Did you have anything you wanted to say on that, John, before I...
Nope. I'm
Nope.
watching Pretty Lights. I think they're good. Yeah.
Okay. The next one, this one is a US-based one. 2 representatives from the US House of Representatives have sent a letter to the Department of Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo asking that drone manufacturer DJI remain on the Department of Commerce entity list with claims of human rights issues and monopolistic pricing designed to eliminate competitors. Now, just reading behind the lines there, the 2 things that that the representatives are talking about, firstly, DJI drones were being used for surveillance of Chinese citizens by the government. I don't know where I kind of sit on that one because at the end of the day, governments in every country are using them for surveillance, whether overtly or covertly. You can't deny that all governments are doing that. So let's leave that aside. But the pricing one, I think, has got legs. Do you think that DJI is using their market power to get the price down of some of their equipment and do that to the disadvantage of other manufacturers?
Oh, look, this is business. Of course, once you have such a huge share of the market, certainly those sort of decisions are made at a corporate level. I know it does happen, so if you want to push someone out, but I don't know of any great examples of others. We wanted to see the Karma GoPro and other aircraft coming into the market that didn't hold. And yet you look at some of the Autel products that quadcopters and so forth. They cost you a little bit more than a DJI aircraft, but people argue there's a little bit more quality in some of the product, and they're have different components. So look, it's a difficult one to answer from where I sit. Anyway, I enjoy buying cheap DJI products. Everyone's probably thinking, yeah, well, I've got my Mavic Air 2S for pretty good money for what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good price. Would we want to pay more for it? No one wants to pay more for it, but the challenge is, I guess, that there are some companies that are going under in different parts of the world. That's the reality. Let's move on to the next one. So this is in Korea, and this is some video footage across the top of Samsung. Just some footage taken by drone, just something interesting I thought I'd share. Let's have a look. Now, just a quick little side comment. My daughter's got her mouth open wide because she heard I mentioned the word Korea. She's a K-pop absolute nut, and anytime anyone mentions Korea, she comes running. But she won't come in here and she won't come on air. Some nice footage. We've got a second clip. Let's go to the second one. We're just having a little peek at each one of these. Again, these stories, people can have a look at the full videos at their leisure. We've got links to all of this in the description. So do go and click on those if you want to find out more about the Samsung campuses in Korea. Now, we've got one more story that we need to do today. Now, I'm going to quickly come back over here and get ready for that button over there. Okay, this story is a late-breaking story, so get ready for it. In late-breaking news, OzByDrone co-host John Morrison has been building a new floating platform to sit outside the back of his boat so that he can have a landing place for his drone. No, I'm kidding.
SpaceX.
This is really a SpaceX landing platform, and I saw it come in my...
spot.
It is. I saw it come in my video feed this week, and I just thought I'd have a bit of fun with it.
Now, what you could have fun with that, Greg, is that if you take that thing more than 3 nautical miles, I think, or it might be 12 for the airspace, off the coast somewhere, and you're in international waters, you can fly your drone beyond visual line of sight. There you go. That's and I mean, imagine what we need to do is hire a barge like that, have a big party on it. We have Barbies out the back and a fridge and so forth, and we just motor out to sea and we just go nuts. We could go crazy. No one below us, no one around, and free airspace, totally free airspace. So
the only thing
on his head, let's go.
The only thing that's missing, we need to have a Bunnings sausage delivery on another barge so we can go and do a sausage delivery. So
we can fly sausages around. We could have a great time. Just one of those things. And I imagine that's a lot of the reason behind SpaceX. I mean, should ask Bill here. He's a NASA rocket scientist. Having a mobile rocket launching pad. I mean, wow, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do now.
You guys actually know conceptually why they land out in the ocean? Like, I've talked to a lot of folks and they don't get it. Like, what's the deal with landing out in the ocean when some of them land back? Do you guys know that story?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Well, so the on the higher Delta V missions, where they either have to lift a heavier payload or have to get up to a higher energy orbit, to land back at the launch site, it takes a bunch of extra fuel. You got to flip over 180 degrees. You got to fire up the rocket engine. You have to stop all your downrange velocity. Now accelerate back towards the launch pad, and so that takes a lot of fuel.
Wow.
And so for the customers who are willing to pay more to launch their satellite, they send the barge out. And the idea with sending the barge out is at the location where the two stages separate, the upper stage lights up and takes the satellite up to orbit, but they burned a lot more fuel out of the first stage to push more energy into the upper stage. And they just let the first stage keep coasting. And it only needs fuel to just do the final entry burn and the touchdown. And it doesn't need to use fuel to stop its forward velocity and accelerate back towards the launch pad where you took off from. So if the customer is willing to pay more money, they'll send that barge out there and they can lift higher payloads or send the satellite into a higher energy orbit.
There you go. That makes sense. Mobile landing pad, it can go wherever the thing just happens to be, and it'll, get it. I get it. Okay, so we've reached that point in the show where we've finished everything except for a giveaway. Last week we had our global fly-in joint simulcast, and here's what we're going to do. We've got 3 people. I've got to check my inbox in a couple of minutes. 3 people who entered the competition. It was Mike B, Artco, and one other person. I've got to go and find that email in a couple of minutes. We're going to have a Discord session after the show, and we're going to decide who the winner is. And just to remind everyone, we were giving away a NoLimitDrones RF booster kit. I'll just go and find that on my computer again to tell you what that was worth. It was about 300 and something euros, if I remember correctly. 300 US dollars, or 175 euros. So we're giving that away today, and 3 people only entered. But I have a subtle hint for you. I'm going to try and arrange for one more of those kits to give away next week, because we're going to have the guy from NoLimitDrones on next week again. So if you don't win today, you can re-enter for next week. And if you didn't enter already, all you have to do is show me a photo and a description of a product that you have used a soldering iron on, because you need to be able to solder to use this kit, right? So we want to make sure that we're going to give it away to... Don't give me your soldering iron bullshit again. Yeah, there, Jim Bob. We're back in America and we have these things, these soldering irons. Yeah, Jim Bob.
That's right. Don't forget it.
Yeah. So if you want to, first of all, those 3 people come into Discord at the end of the show and we're going to pick a winner there. Number 2, if you're not a winner today, or if you want to enter, send me a photo and a description of a project where you used a soldering iron, and you can win one of these boards as well.
Yay.
Okay, now, last little thing, our quick little plugs as always: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, YouTube, of course. You can find us at OzByDrone on each of those platforms. If you want to send anything physical, the address is 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 2224. That was very, very spooky. I pressed the wrong button, I think. And there's one more. There it is.
What else is new?
Thanks, Grumps. If you want to send in some video footage, send it to upload@gregkuhnert.com. And that's all we've got time for. Some last words from each of our guests. Let's start with our special guest here. Bill, have you got any last comments or words for the day?
Well, thank you for the invite. This was I had a lot of fun. So this was a fun conversation, and thank you for managing it.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was lovely to hear about your products and your research and where you're going with the company. Thanks. We do want to keep in touch. So if you got another product, let us know, and we'll definitely be having a look at it.
Okay, sounds great.
Grumpy?
Well, first off, fantastic guest. Bill, you were just, Marine or not, you were one of the most interesting people I've heard on here for a while. Even more interesting than John. Actually,
way more.
Drawing paint's more interesting than John, but that's besides the point.
You know what, Grumpy?
Really
You
enjoyed hearing from you.
You know what, Grumpy? You froze up on screen just a moment ago. For those that don't know, Grumpy's got a new internet service. And aside from that little glitch, he does look better on screen, but his jokes still leave a lot to be desired. Anyway, see you next time, Grumps.
Jokes are still bad. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Remember what I say, be kind.
And John.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic to have Bill as a guest today. What I liked about it too is, because we like to be able to provide the answers to everybody and show you a bit about the technology, and to actually balance Grumpy in kind of the equation of where the intelligence is going here. We had to actually get a NASA rocket scientist. That's what we had to do. I mean, we weren't just looking at an off-the-shelf smart person here, So, and that was nice. It did create some balance, I got Grumpy on one hand, and I got a NASA rocket scientist on the other. So I felt comfortable in the middle of that, That was good.
Okay.
Go, Grumpy.
We've had a lot of fun today. It's been great having all of our talent on the screen. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being part of the experience, and we'll see you next time. That's all for now. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Fly safe, everybody. Bye-bye.